All right. Hello, everyone. Can you just tell me if I'm audible? If you can hear me, that would be great. Nothing so far. Okay. So I hope I'm audible. If I'm not, please do let me know. All right. So today's session, we will try to see some of the common mistakes that students commit in the English section of IPMAT. All right. So that's what we're looking for and how to avoid them, basically. We will take this very structurally. We will go from RCs. Okay, you can hear me? Great. All right. So we'll go from RCs to vocabulary to grammar, which will pretty much cover the entire section. So let's get cracking. Let's take a look at what are some of the common mistakes, some of them very easy to avoid and not very complicated. It's just that habit is a problem. All right. So let's try to get into some good habits. Okay, let's see. What are the objectives of this webinar? What are we looking to do? We are trying to understand the common mistakes that you're likely to commit. All right. Learn how to avoid the trap of negative marking. Improve accuracy and speed. These are also we will also tackle some of the ideas in which you can improve your accuracy and speed, which is very crucial for the exam, right? And build a exam strategy. You may include your own. You may take some pointers from here, and you may design your own strategy. All right. So let's get to it. What's the first one? The first category that we're dealing with is reading comprehension, which is crucial, right? Like cracking reading comprehension, doing it fast can be very useful to you in getting ahead of your competitors. What are some of the problems that you see in reading comprehension? Overconfidence is often a problem. Overconfidence in the sense, I mean, it's just comprehending a passage, right? Comprehending a piece of text, I can always get through. No prep needed. Nothing much to do. I'll just read it at the pace that that I find comfortable, and I'll go through the questions. That can often lead to problems. I know a lot about this one. Leads to a lot of problems often. All right. Poor reading strategies, again, another one. We'll get into the details of what this means later on. But yeah, that is also another major problem. Misinterpreting questions, often not reading them accurately, making second guesses without actually going through the whole thing. This can also be a major problem. Falling for trap options. I mean, the examiners have set up certain traps for you in the questions. Identifying the traps and not falling for them is also key. So this is the first category that we're looking at, RCs. All right, let's get to the specifics. Okay. Mistake one, reading too fast or too slow. Both of them are a problem, right? Too fast, missing a lot of details. Therefore, too fast, you're just running with it. You're missing out a lot of details. Too slow, well, if you're going too slow, basically you are killing time. You need to know, you need to have a modulated way of reading, knowing when to go fast, when to go slow, what is important, what is not important within the RC is crucial. Identifying those things, right? So, what is the problem? Skimming blindly. Just because you have to get through the paper fast, you start skimming blindly, not really identifying what is going on, not really identifying the arguments, just going ahead with it, right? Reading word by word is, so this is going fast, too fast, and this is going slow. Just reading each word, trying to understand each word, and then going to the next word, disaster. All right. So these two are major problems. Avoid them. How do I fix it? Purposeful reading. Know when to go fast, when to go slow. Identify arguments, identify details, right? Those are the things that you need to do. Understanding the main idea and tone, understanding the idea of the passage, reason why the passage is given, reason why that text is written, and then identifying the tone as well. These are ways you can fix it. Knowing how to read, when to go slow, when to go fast is the crux. Mistake number two. Often this is a major problem with students. bringing in personal opinions or ideas from outside that you may have read somewhere else about a topic that is fairly, say, common knowledge. You may have this tendency to bring in ideas from outside. Big mistake. Avoid it at all costs. Don't do this. Try to keep the breadth of information uh, limited to whatever is given in the RC. All right. Whatever question you're dealing with, whatever the question expects of you, you need to deal it within the information given in the RC, not go out of the scope of the RC. So the passage logic, whoever the author is, they have a certain belief. It may be completely wrong, completely, absolutely trash, doesn't make any sense at all. But we have to consider this to be the truth within the sphere of the RC, right? And it is not something that has to align with your belief. Okay. So we need to make sure that this does not happen. Okay. Even if that logic makes no sense, has no truth to it, we still have to consider that to be our information bank. Okay. Only use information from the passage. Like I said, don't bring anything from outside. Keep the information level to the passage only. Avoid emotional reasoning. Another aspect of this is a lot of people get into the emotional side of it. They start assessing, attaching morality. What is wrong? What is right? Not something that you should be doing. Again, all right. So just give me a moment. One second, guys. All right, guys. Sorry about that. All right. Mistake number 3. Okay. Extreme options. Often lots of extreme options. Always. What else? Every time. All the time. These kind of options. Always, every time, every day. These kind of extreme options. Something which is very universal, right? So these kind of options also, you have to be very careful with these options. It's not necessarily that they may be the wrong option directly. Another trap when I tell people that you should be looking out for these is they start eliminating the options straight away. They'll see always and just eliminate it. That's not how you should go about it. You should be very careful. The moment you see this, yes, okay, you know how to be careful, but that doesn't mean you eliminate it right away. Because if I had to set up a trap, this is what I would do, right? I would give an option where always the one which has always is the right option. So you need to avoid traps, right? So this could potentially be a trap. These kind of extreme positions should make you very careful, right? You should start analyzing that option very carefully, but that doesn't mean that you just spot the always or every time or anything like that and eliminate it straight away. All right, so don't do that. Okay, always, never, completely, only. prefer balanced answers? Yes, most of the time the balanced answer, the right option is going to be very balanced. So look out for it. Yeah, like I said, look out for it, but don't eliminate it right away. Okay. Ignoring question types, right? Another thing, so people preparing for RCs, they just look at it like the overconfidence angle, right? That is basically, okay, I'll just read the content, okay, I'll gather information and I'll attempt. Often that will happen to be true and it will work for you, but it is good to know what question is challenging what. If the option is fact based, or is it an inference question, is it a tone question? Is it challenging the main idea? Is it asking me to identify the main idea? Is it asking for vocabulary in context? All these are very crucial aspects to know what is being expected in a particular question. It is very important to identify whether it's critical reasoning, inference type, whether it's just identifying the tone of the author, whether it is fact based, or whether it is challenging the main idea. All these very crucial to know. So this is something, these are something that you can, while you're preparing, you can check out the question and you can try to identify what it is trying to ask of you, right? You can do that while preparing. Okay. Guessing without elimination, right? Another crucial aspect of solving an RC is you need to be able to eliminate options. You need to eliminate options. A lot of times students, what they do, they try to pick the option. Often this will be right. I'm not saying it won't work for you, but you may have options uh, where you may have a situation where one option may be more right than the other, right? And if I go for something like a picking strategy, it may not always work. I may pick the wrong one, right? It has to be combined. Often elimination has to happen. You should be able to eliminate. Usually for a standard question, you should be able to eliminate two options at least. At least get rid of two options. That you should be able to fairly do. And then you have two options which may be close, two close options. And in that scenario, if you're unable to eliminate, then you may decide to pick based on your understanding of the RC. All right. But you should employ elimination first. It should always be an elimination first strategy, and then you come to pick. So most easy questions, you'll almost always be able to eliminate three options, not just one. All right. So or two. So then you combine that with pick and you should be good. Compare the remaining choices, which is basically the picking part, right? Compare them, okay, and pick the one which makes more sense than the other. That's how you roll. Okay. Now this is all about RCs. Now we are getting into the vocabulary part. Vocabulary problems with not just attempting but preparation, blind memorization. Vocabulary through memorization is really, I mean, I won't say impossible, but it is really, really difficult. The dictionary is vast, right? You can't really memorize. How just imagine the scope of memorization required for this to happen, right? It is very difficult for you to memorize it. Unless it is really part of your vocabulary, it really becomes very hard to just blindly memorize and try to answer it. Okay. Ignoring context. Words often are not very direct in the sense that they're not very direct in terms of their meaning. They depend heavily on context quite often, right? So understanding this context is very important. Often people ignore it, right? So that is another mistake that people commit. Confusing similar words that sound the same. People think they mean very similar things. Often not the case at all. The English language, with its all complications, often makes similar words with very different meanings, right? Choosing familiar sounding words, right? Again, both these aspects are almost similar, right? Choosing similar sounding words and choosing familiar words. similar words, right? Both very common mistakes that people commit. Rote learning, like we said, learning. How do I fix this? I really cannot do this. Rote learning, it's just even if you try, you'll realize it quickly enough doesn't work. So how do I fix it? Learn root words, understand. Try understanding etymology of words. Where do they come from? What is the origin of these words? Try understanding etymology. That should help you a lot, right? One of the ways it can help you is if you understand the root words, right? If I understand the root words, and if I'm faced with a question where a word is asked, I may not know the entire word, but if I just know the root, if I know the root word, then maybe I can answer the question by eliminating the rest. I can maybe understand whether it's a positive word or a negative word based on the root, and then I can get to answering that question. So this is a very common strategy that you use if you have a good grip on understanding roots. This is a great way to build up your vocabulary. So learn from roots, learn usage. Don't just look at the words in isolation. Understand the context in which they are used. Understand the ways in which they are used. Right. So this is again very important. Understanding from context. This is basically right. Learn the tone. This is also similar to context, but sometimes the way of us, the situation in which or the tone in which the word is spoken changes its meaning, right? So understanding tones is also, so etymology and context, this is basically both of them we can combine and say context. Okay, so learn roots, try to understand meaning from context, deduce meanings of word from the context in which they are being used. You can practice it. Just pick up any piece of text, identify a word that you don't know the meaning to, and try to do some detective work. Try to find if you can understand the meaning of the word from the context in which it is being used. All right. So that is how to fix this. Ignoring context, like I said, let's take an example. Sanction. In the noun form, it is permission, but in the verb form, it is punishment. Same word, different application, right? So, the US government imposed sanctions on Cuba. That does not mean permission, it means punishment. They punished Cuba by imposing sanctions. All right. The parole officer sanctioned his release, permitted his release. Okay. So, ignoring context can be brutal in the exam. Confusing words. Affect, effect, some of the most common ones. Complement, complement, sound the same, right? Economic, economical, it doesn't mean the same thing, right? So, these are some of the things that you need to be careful of when they're being used. I mean, often when you're reading really fast, you can miss this, right? So, be very careful in terms of your reading ability as well. Mistake category 3, grammatical errors. What do? Guessing by sound, the way a certain sentence sounds, depending on our reading. Maybe we may have read certain things somewhere and we try to deduce the grammatical correctness based on the way something sounds. Now, the problem is we may not have, the source may have been grammatically incorrect, right? That's always a issue. So, ignore rules. Tense mismatch. Tense mismatch is a very common one. What happens is, say, error correction, right? Like, say a sentence is given, and in that you want to correct the error. Often, what people do is they change but in terms of correcting the error, they change the meaning of the sentence, and that often happens through the tenses. They'll change the tense of the sentence, thereby changing the meaning. And from there, they said, okay, they say, oh no, this is the right option. Okay. You need to make sure when you're doing a question like that, say solving a grammatical error identification question, you need to make sure that the tense and the meaning of that sentence are intact. They don't change. All right. And then you need to correct the error. Okay. So another common one, ignoring rules is also something that people often do because we are really bad at just identifying the rules, right? So don't do that, okay? Don't guess by sound either. This sounds right. I mean, this is very risky business basically. And we're all very guilty of this. This sounds right is something that we are all very guilty of when it comes, particularly when it comes to grammar. Don't do that. Fix it. Okay. Correct approach. This follows the rules. So for this, for you to do this, you need to know this, know the rules. You need to know what the rules are, right? To fix, to follow this, follow the rules. I need to know what the rules are. So focus a lot on the grammatical rules, but then also try to apply them. Don't just figure out the rules and forget about them, right? It's very application based. It's like math, right? Like if I only learn the formula and I don't know where to apply them or when to apply them, the formula is no good, right? So learn the rules, learn how to apply them as well. Subject verb agreement is another major issue. The list of items is a number of students are, right? Make sure that subject verb agreement is in place. Is a very common error type. So read all about it, figure out what the rules are in this game. All right. Tense errors, I've already explained this. You people tend to mix these two, past and present. Conditional errors also is something that people do. So make sure that you don't, in trying to correct the sentence, you don't change the tenses. All right. Category number 4, which is parajumbles. Parajumble questions, right? Often what people do, random ordering. They start rereading, and they just randomly place it. Don't do that. They ignore connectors. Ignore connectors. We look into that, what kind they are, like however, therefore, right? Missing chronology is another common one. Missing the timeline, the sequence of events, right, in which they happened, is also something that they miss. Often dates are given, and one event follows the other. Often people miss the timeline of the event, so that is a major issue. Parajumbles, you need to be very careful in terms of the way you solve it, can land you in trouble. First mistake happens in the first step. The first step is identifying the opening sentence is the first step that you should approach. That's how you approach a parajumble question, and often you get it wrong. Get the opening sentence wrong and it's a disaster from there. You're never going to get the question right. Okay. And in fact, not just disaster in terms of getting it wrong, you may end up spending a lot of time on it, right? Okay. So not something that you should be doing. How do I fix it? Look for the intro sentence. Try to see what the introduction could be. It should not have any pronouns. Make sure there are no pronouns in there. Okay. And it has to be general. Okay, this is another policy that we follow. We go from general to specific. This is a generalized way that we approach these questions. We go from general or broad statements to specific details. Okay, saying something much broader than coming back to the details. That is a policy that we follow to identify the most logical sequence, right? That's what we are looking for. Often I get this question, sir, this way also we can write. Why can't we write from specific to general? You can actually. The language can be written that way. It's an English language, right? You can structure it that way. However, we are looking for the most logical sequence. And in terms of the most logical sequence, this is what we follow, which is going from broader point to a narrower point, right? So this is also something that you need to be aware of. Make sure there are no nouns and try to see what the intro is going to be like. Ignoring connectors, very important in identifying the pairs. Identifying pairs. To identify pairs, what you need pronouns. pronouns to noun, and you need the connectors. These two elements are going to help you solve it, right? You identify where the pronoun is, check that, and see which noun can fit that sentence. That's how you approach it. Then you look for connectors. You look for a connector like however, therefore. So what is the sentence before it? Okay. So that's how you approach. Very important to identify. Once you identify this, you can try to identify a pair within those set of sentences. All right. Identifying the opening sentence, identifying the pair would get you to 3 sentences covered, right? Out of the 4 total sentences, 3 sentences have been covered. Now you're left with 2 options. You'll be left with 2 options, and you can, based on other chronology or things like that, you can get down to the right answer based on that. All right. Chronology, another big one: time, cause, effect, events, order. What is the timeline of the sequence, right? What is the timeline of the event that is being discussed? Is there a cause effect relationship? Cause, then effect, right? That is also chronological, and the order in which these events play out, right? So that is very important to tap into if it is a possibility. May not always be available for you, but if it is something that we should look at. In fact, a chronology, if it is present in the question, makes your job very easy in identifying the sequence, right? So always be on the lookout for it. If there's a chronology, just tap into it. It will make your life very easy. All right, so what is the exam strategy? Let's get into problems that you may have with your strategy. Poor time management is the biggest killer, right? You could have, if I give you enough time, I'm sure you'll all be doing well in the exam, but really the problem is with time, and it is crucial that you identify the right management of it, right? Blind guessing, people start guessing, often problem with VARC in particular, right? Like, because I mean, you could start, oh, this is what it feels like, this could be the right way to do it. Problem, don't do that. Weak prioritization, not understand, this is another major issue in terms of strategy, not understanding. So a lot of people start going sequentially and not understanding what you should prioritize. If you're good at RC, start with it. Sometimes people are good at grammar, but they do it in the end. It's all about building momentum. So understand where you can build that momentum from, right from the start. Get going. Initially, if you start fumbling the questions, it becomes very difficult to gain that momentum. And really, the entire paper really is about building that momentum. So prioritize it right. And the last one is, people don't analyze their mocks. Analysis is very different from just looking at the answers, right? We'll get into the details of this. Okay, so let's start. Spending too much time on RC can happen. You can get swayed by an RC, start reading it word for word and try to see, okay, this, that, getting into too many details. Don't spend a lot of time. Understand when to leave, know when to check out. Okay, that's something that you need to do. Don't spend more than an allotted time. Okay, and not just if I have to get back to it, not just spending too much time, but not realizing which RC to do first is also a problem. Identify which RC you would be most comfortable with and try doing that first. All right, so the sequence within the RCs can be very can really change the way your paper is going. Okay, blind guessing. A lot of people start doing this. I won't recommend this for sure. 50% sure is depending on how your exam is going, really, how it's going so far. But this can be your, depending on your, some can be comfortable at 50, some can be at 60, some are only comfortable at 90. That is upon you, but don't guess. Okay, eliminate options. Like I said, learn to eliminate options, not pick the right option. Make sure you do that. Mock analysis, right? Maintaining error logs, maintaining a log of where you go wrong and what needs to be fixed, not just the whole paper, but maintaining what particular question types you have a problem with. right? Question types you have a problem with. Why? What is the reason for the mistakes? Why are you fumbling? Where are you going wrong? What went wrong in that particular question? Identifying that and correct the rule. All right. What are the top 5 score killers? Personal opinions in RC, big. I would say one of the biggest ones. Identifying the RC, the nature of it, and then trying to insert our own knowledge. Problem number 1. Ignoring context. Problems with vocabulary, right? This is often a vocabulary issue. Grammar, again, by instinct. Oh, I think I read somewhere, but could be any shitty author, right? Like, it could be wrong. Happens quite often. Randomly picking parajumbles and just rereading it, reading it, having no strategy, and just trying to identify some logic often goes wrong. In fact, takes a lot of time. People start doing that. They just keep reading, doesn't work. And not doing any kind of mock analysis. These are some of the biggest score killers. And this one, maybe you'll realize after the exam, but these you will realize during the exam, right? You'll struggle once you have personal opinions. You'll start struggling here. You'll start struggling with identifying the right options in almost all 4 of them. And this one, you will realize only after the exam that no mock analysis was a disaster. Okay. So anyway, thank you for joining me and listening to me very patiently. Hope you incorporate some of these strategies, some of the mistakes that you may be committing at this point, and try to fix them and try to develop some of your own strategies. All the best for the exam. Thank you.